Hey everybody, welcome back to Redbug Music. I hope you're doing well, and I'm glad that you could be with me today. We're going to continue on our journey to Prince's Sign of the Times album by discussing Prince's next unreleased album, which is going to be Crystal Ball. Not to be confused with the Crystal Ball that was released as a compilation album later on in 1998. This is the unreleased album that came out after he did Dream Factory and then Camille. And then after those were shelved or abandoned, he went on to make Crystal Ball. So before we go on, stop here and subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so whenever a new video comes out, you'll be the first to know. And next week, whenever I continue the journey to Sign of the Times, you're going to be able to get that. But so I had a listener question about the Camille track listing. Now, the Camille video describes that I did describes the album as it was actually released. There were more songs that were recorded with the Camille voice before and after that could be considered Camille, but they weren't on this album. So the way that I actually listed it on the Camille video is exactly how the album was supposed to come out. So check that out, and I'll link it up here and down below so you can make sure to see that. And also the Dream Factory, with that said, the Dream Factory video is the same way. It's listed exactly how it was going to be. There were three different configurations for Dream Factory that we know of, and I mentioned and talked about and described the third configuration, which would have been the last, which we would assume that would be the one that's going to be released. But anyway, but to answer your question, the Camille album, the way I have it, is exactly how it was officially going to be released. Now, so after shelving Dream Factory and Camille, Prince decided to combine the efforts of those two albums and new material that he had been recording into a new album called Crystal Ball. When Crystal Ball was presented to the producers of Warner Brothers, they balked at the idea of a 3 LP album being so long. They didn't think people would have the interest, and it was just way too long. So they wanted him to scale it back to a single album, maybe even a double album, which we know that he did that, and that's what later come to be Sign of the Times. Now, Crystal Ball had 9 tracks from Dream Factory and 7 tracks come over from Camille that were going to be included on this massive album. Most of the songs on this album, on the Crystal Ball album, are in the same form as you're going to hear them on Sign of the Times. He's already worked out Wendy and Lisa and the Revolution and just try to make it as much of a solo effort as possible. So here's what it looks like I said, it was going to be a 3 LP album, which there are going to be 6 sides, because, 2 sides per album. Now, the first side was going to start with Rebirth of the Flesh, that came from the Camille album, and it also can be found on the Deluxe album. So that's where you find that one. And then we have Play in the Sunshine, and that was a new track that was just added. Now, the transition from Rebirth of the Flesh to Play in the Sunshine was different than what you hear between Sign of the Times and Play in the Sunshine. So that's pretty cool. I'd like to hear that. And then the third song is the same. It's Housequake, and that came from Camille. And you can also find that on the Deluxe album or the regular Sign of the Times album. And the last song on side one was the Ballad of Dorothy Parker. Now, that one came from Dream Factory. And if you want to know the story about the recording of the Ballad of Dorothy Parker, go back and watch the Dream Factory video and you'll see that story. And then we flip over to side two. Now we have It, Starfish and Coffee, and Slow Love. Now, all those are going to continue on to Sign of the Times, and they all came from Dream Factory. And then the last song on side two is Hot Thing. Now that's a new track, and you can find it on Sign of the Times. And and also, if you didn't know this, and maybe some big Prince fans already did, but you can actually find that on the Girl 6 soundtrack that was directed by Spike Lee. I've got that here somewhere. And then we're going to go over to side three. So it's the second album, A side. Now, the first song on there is Crystal Ball. That came from Dream Factory. Then it goes into If I Was Your Girlfriend, which came from Camille, but it still doesn't have that wedding march intro. And then the last song on that side is Hard Rock in a Funky Place, which came from Camille and could be found on the Black album. And then we flip it over to side B on the second album, and the first song is The Ball. Now that's a new track. And if you listen to The Ball, you can find it on the Deluxe album. But if you listen to it and it sounds familiar, like I said before, it was actually reworked and placed on the Lovesexy album and retitled I Know. So you can check that out. That's pretty cool. And here's what I thought was pretty sweet. After I Know, it segued into Joy in Repetition. Now, at that point, it was a new track. And we know that that one later on went to Graffiti Bridge. But the intro, the way it segues into Joy and Repetition, is actually the same on Graffiti Bridge as it was going to be on this album. So the ball, if you listen to them back to back, that's probably pretty close to what you would hear on the Crystal Ball album. So that's pretty cool. Enjoy Written Repetition is probably considered the best song on Graffiti Bridge. So it's kind of strange that he would have pulled it out. I'd love to know why he pulled it out to go on to Sign of the Times. I guess it just didn't fit. And then after Joy and Repetition, it had Strange Relationship, which actually came from Dream Factory. And also, it could be found on Camille. So that's the only song that actually made it to all the albums. It hit Dream Factory, Camille, Crystal Ball, and then Sign of the Times. So is that Prince's favorite song? I don't know. It was reworked because it did have Wendy and Lisa, and he worked them completely out. And that's a version you're going to get here. And then the last song on side four is going to be I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man. And, you know, that came from Dream Factory and is also on Sign of the Times. Okay, the next side, side five, is going to start out with Shockadelica, which we know came from the Camille album. And that can be found on the Deluxe album. And then it goes into Good Love, which is also from the Camille album. That can be found on Crystal Ball compilation album. And it's also on the Bright Lights Big City soundtrack. So if you want to make it, that's where you can find those. Then we go to, he added a new track called Forever in My Life. And we know that one could be found on the Deluxe album or just regular Sign of the Times. And then the last song on side five is Sign of the Times, which came from Dream Factory. I just feel like this is so much information, but it's so cool. But I'll leave a playlist so you can make it yourself, or some links if you have Apple Music. I'll have an Apple Music playlist, and you can check it out there. And then we're going. Then we have side six. This is the last side. This is going to start with The Cross. That one came from Dream Factory, and that can also be found on Girl Six soundtrack if you have that. And then there's been a little confusion between the next two songs. It's going to be A Beautiful Night, which is a new track added to this, which actually features a Revolution, also Sheila E. and Jill Jones. And then the last song is Adore, which is a new track that he created, which is also on Girl Six, if you need to find it there. But there was some confusion on which one happened first. Did it go from The Cross to Adore to It's Going to Be a Beautiful Night, or did it go from The Cross to It's Going to Be a Beautiful Night to Adore? There's a little bit of confusion as to which way that should be. But I think this was the correct way, and this is actually the way that it is on Sign of the Times. So this is what I'm going with, because I read some stories how it was listed the other way around on the tapes, but it may have been an error. So I'm not exactly sure, but that's it. That's the whole entire gigantic monstrosity of an album, Crystal Ball. I kind of can see why the the producers of Warner Brothers would balk at this, because it is really big and it's just a lot of material, and it's probably hard for them to realize if it's good or not. I think it would have sold like crazy. I think Crystal Ball would have been an amazing album. People would have loved it. So, like I said, I'll leave a link down below to my Apple playlist so you can enjoy that if you can. And also, I'll leave a track listing on in the description down below, and also on my website, redbugmusic.com, so you can find it and maybe be able to make that album yourself and enjoy it, which I have been doing every time when I made Dream Factory and Camille and now Crystal Ball. I have listened to all those so many times, and they are all fantastic. I'm on Instagram at Red Mug Music. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/Red Mug Music. Also, don't forget, you need to subscribe and ring the bell so you get that notification whenever the next video is released. You'll be one of the first to find out. And next week, we're going to end our journey to the Sign of the Times and finally talk about the masterpiece that is Sign of the Times. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell so you are the first to find out. But anyway, thanks for hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys next week.